nothing else has ever made it so that students could easily and actively communicate outside of the walls of the classroom, or that anything could come in and draw their attention away. Nothing has changed this much. Students have always written notes to each other and passed them. That's sort of sad that that art is lost, because there was this beauty in that note passing thing. And I'm sure people have saved notes for years at times that they were passed in class, where they may actually not have saved the files that the MSN conversations were sent on. But we've all, I'm sure, at one point or another in high school or university written letters to our friends, when we used to actually handwrite letters and put them in the mail. And we had ways of being distracted. There is no question. People would read newsletters, people would be working on papers for other classes. There's a million things that you could have folded inside that notebook, some which were more appropriate than others. But once you got into the class, it used to be the case that the professor had you. Whatever you had with you, you had, but you couldn't get anything else. So if you walked in with another notebook inside your notebook, you had that. But halfway through, somebody was not able to hand you something else to distract you. And the professor would walk over and close the door, and there you were. It wasn't always a good thing, but it was always a given for the professor. That captive audience thing is gone with a wireless classroom. Now, the other thing to really remember when we talk about the captive audience and wireless classrooms, if we were able to put tinfoil on everybody's heads and little points coming out of them and then block all the wireless internet in the classrooms, what would we not be able to block? If we blocked Carleton's, here at Carleton for example, if we blocked our wireless internet, what would we not be able to block? Because for one thing, it would be against the law to block it.
Everything that's already on there.
Blackberries, cell phones, iPhones are on the internet. Rocket sticks, you know what rocket sticks are? Plug it into your laptop and you pay Rogers or whoever your Shaw or whoever your provider is, AT&T. You plug it in and it gives you immediate access to the general wireless network. So it's sort of the same wireless that's on my BlackBerry. So there was a commercial on TV, I don't know if it went right across the country, about the guy trying to buy the hockey tickets, and it was really slow, and the other guy had a rocket stick, and he got on really fast and got his good playoff tickets. Those things are here to stay. It wouldn't matter if we could block the university wireless, or we decide not to put wireless in our classrooms because so many professors are protesting. This is not stopping. Now, you can say to your 300 students in your lecture theater, everybody put your cell phones up at the front. Because we've had cell phone distractions for a lot of years now, haven't we, in classes? This is not new. But for one thing, from a personal property perspective, other than during exams and things, that's a tough call. Some professors will still argue they can take students' cell phones away from them. I don't know if push came to shove how successful they would be in fighting that case, because these are expensive pieces of equipment. They're valuable pieces of equipment. So we need to look at managing it. So even if we could block the rest of it out, the world can still get in on your cell phone. I can still get out to Facebook on this. So that sort of becomes a waste of our time, is to try to stop regular wireless in the classroom and block the good things about it. The students have always had things competing for their attention. There's just a lot more now. Because at least before, and let's say they turn off the cell phone and walk in to class, any message they got anyhow during class didn't get to them instantly. So it didn't cause an immediate distraction. This is the biggest concern that professors have. The other big worry a lot of people have expressed, that I don't know how much of a worry it is, but it's a concern, is that students can now talk to each other silently during class. So you're delivering a lecture and your student's saying, this guy is completely off base. What do you think about that? I think nutcase. You know, and again, we could have passed notes, but it would have been more difficult and people would have been more respectful. So one of the big concerns that faculty have is they've got all these students sitting with their notebooks open, with their laptops open, and here's the weird thing: their laptops are all open facing them. I'm here. I don't know what they're doing. And it is in theory possible, and we have had cases where it has happened, it's come forward, where they're all on a big MSN conversation thing talking about the prof. And all you need is some professors to hear that story one time, and they get very paranoid about what is going on those screens. The other thing, which I think is a good thing, because I think this is the epitome of student engagement, is that students can actually use internet resources to delve into whatever you're talking about in class. So if you say there was a new discovery of some new gene that was thought that perhaps it could cure cancer and et cetera, your students may be Googling that, going, that's cool, and Googling it. What worries people, of course, is they can also be Googling the veracity of what you're saying. Because we used to always be more protected, is that there was us and a textbook. And maybe if the students went to the library, one other book that would talk to them about the discipline. So if you weren't quite sure what you were talking about, it was pretty easy to fudge it. Well, fudging it's pretty tough when they're all on the internet and you're sitting there and all of a sudden 6 hands shoot up at once and say, this says, right? So that's a concern. There are ways, again, to manage that, but these things are concerns that professors have about how things impact them. I really like this quote. This is, gosh, what, year and a half old now. Distractions, of course, are nothing new to students. There have always been sarcastic notes to pass, important doodles to draw, hangovers to recover from, and classmates to ogle. But the competition for student attention has never been as fierce as it is today. The state of overstimulation, fed by constant connectivity, leads to the phenomenon dubbed continuous partial attention. By Linda Stone, a lecturer, she used to work for Microsoft. Her thesis is that the need that digital workers and students feel to monitor everything at once is driven by a constant fear that they may miss something important. The result's a high level of stress accompanied by an inability to devote full attention to what is happening in front of them. And I don't think this is particularly off base. But here's the issue. What can we do about it? This entire digital generation, we hear all these funky great terms like digital natives, because they've grown up in this kind of digital, in this digital climate. It is the way kids are. If you are connected to teenagers in any way these days, they are frantically texting. They don't email anymore. Do not even attempt to email teenagers. They don't answer. It's about to become a big dilemma for all these universities who've put all these resources behind email contact systems for all their students, and we have rules here now that say that you are required to monitor your Carleton email. That's an expectation of you, which is fine if you read your email. But most teenagers today, I have a variety of teenagers, and if I email them, it's days often before they'll read it because they don't read their email. If I text them, I get an answer immediately. So that email thing just went and skipped to their generation. Only old people email. You're old. The continuous partial attention is a really interesting construct because it's that sense that they are used to attending to one thing and kind of monitoring texting and monitoring Facebook and watching, they don't watch TV much anymore, but YouTube videos, sort of all at the same time. Now, is it as effective and are they learning as well as with more full attention? The little bit of research that's been done at this point says no, they're not. It says it is more difficult to learn when you're monitoring these things.